Hello, my name is Chad Walker and the founder at OnTracker. And today, what we're going to be going into is the idea of patient access. I've recently arrived back in Australia after many years of being away. And throughout these last few years, I've had the fortunate experience of looking at what access of cannabis can look like in different countries. Now, before I start off, let's go into this example. Yeah, this will give you an understanding of what at times the American market can be like. So last week I was in Nevada, where it's an adult recreational market. Within there, and this isn't a plug at all, but one of the biggest dispensaries in the world is located there. I think it's called Planet 11. It's interesting to see what's happened in the last few years, where when I went there back in 2021, there was much more variety. There were many more options, and it wasn't so branded. And when you go in now, you've got like Lil Wayne, the rapper's brand, and it wasn't so much variety. And you can kind of see that cannabis is kind of changing to more branding. Tyson 2.0's over here, but all they are is you've got a back end mass producer who's manufacturing these products, and you're just slapping brands on at the front of it, right? And when we have conversations, and it's so critical to what's going on in Australia at the moment, and as I'm here over the coming time, I think we'll drill into this in a little bit more detail about, because if we're looking at access is important, but also that needs to be quality. And so how do we find that middle line? And that's going to be something that we drill into in more detail. And everyone, I'm sure a lot of you may have different thoughts and opinions on it, but just to give you an understanding about where the Americans are at, particularly in Nevada. Yeah. So I was on the way to a dispensary. So I was walking from my hotel and I was on the way to have a look around at what different options I could get. I love beverages. So, and what I mean by that, I don't want to get a can where it's 10 milligrams at a time. And I know that's many of you that would prefer that. I'm more of a guy that wants to get a 2.5 milligram, 2 milligram, even 1.5, and sit on that and maybe have 4 or 5 of those over a bit of a session rather than having beer. Is that CBMs, cannabis-based medicines? It's not. It's me on the weekend or kicking back, enjoying a little bit of cannabis and knowing how I'm going to be dosing to kind of optimize my social health, enjoy myself without needing to utilize too much alcohol. Not that I need to rely on anything, but you kind of see where I'm going. So I'm on the way up, walking to the dispensary, and a taxi driver pulls me over and says, "You want to ride?" And I knew I'd been there before, so I knew I was about 400 meters away. And I'm like, "It's all good, mate. I know where I'm going." He's like, "I'll drop you at the dispensary." And I was like, hang on, like, what's going on? How does he know? And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Listen, I work for the dispensary. I go out there, we pick people up and we drop them into the dispensary." And I was like, "That's for real?" He's like, "You don't need to pay anything. Just jump in. I drop you to the dispensary. Front door delivery. You go and make your purchase and it's done." And I was like, very interested. And I'm like, "Sure, no worries." Jump in the car. So what his arrangement is, the dispensary pays him per day to go out, look for people that he sees are going to be wanting to consume, and directly brings them into the dispensary. He said, "I know what I'm looking for. I don't know what that means," but he was able to pick me up front door straight into dispensary and then moved ahead. When you're looking at access, it can't really get much better, right? So for a consumer, fantastic, right? But what does that also show? That also shows that it's so competitive between these dispensaries that you got someone on your payroll who's out there trawling the streets to just ensure that you don't lose customers along the way. Now, what was interesting is that I went in there, and as mentioned, the variety had changed. It wasn't really the brands that I was connecting with. And then one of the other famous dispensaries is across the road called Reef Dispensary. Again, one of the other rappers, but this is Wiz Khalifa's dispensary. So I ended up having a look at both, and the disparity in price. I think what they do is they cook in the price into the acquisition, into the customer acquisition. So if the taxi has came in and identified me, while this isn't said, I think when I looked at the docket, I then think the customer ends up actually paying. So as a customer, you can kind of get a little bit tricked into thinking, well, this is a really good option and it's really cool. But in reality, I would have rather walked for another 400 meters, gone to a different dispensary and, been able to make those savings. That's just one example of what went on over in America. Now that I'm back in Australia, obviously where we are, there's a whole range of talk around what different models are going to replace or expand upon existing regulations that we have at the moment. I don't think it's going to be a case that taxi drivers are going to be coming around and collecting us, but I think the landscape for how you are going to be able to access cannabis in Australia is soon going to change. Whether or not we're going to see changes that are positive, I'm yet to be convinced that what I see and the discourse happening within the Australian market and within key opinion leaders here and voices that have an agenda within the Australian market, I don't see the model being effective. And I know that is against, that is the majority, that isn't the majority view. And I know a lot of people in the industry wouldn't agree with me, but all I see is that we're going to get a position, like I said before, where we're just going to have brands and brands and brands. And I don't think that it's going to be a system that advocates and supports patients. And I don't think there's a model around the world which demonstrates that that is the case. And what I think we'll see is a race to the bottom and then end up catering towards a recreational adult use market, which many people want because that's where they see the bucks. But I don't think that is what is best at this stage for where we're moving. The need for more patient education, the need for improved prescriber and regulatory confidence, and for everyone to have an understanding about how safe, how effective, and what do these medicines do when used by patients in a range of different situations. But that's a little bit for today. I'm going to leave you to it. Just wanted to drop a quick, the main thing for me is just coming on and doing this consistently on a weekly basis. I've got a few ideas about how I'm going to make it a little bit more exciting in the coming weeks, but please give me some suggestions, write some things down below and let us know what you would like what would you like me to cover in the coming weeks. But I'm here in Australia, looking forward to seeing and meeting you, some of you in person in the coming weeks. Thank you very much.